Here we are in week 2. This week, we are going to take that introduction to social scientific research and expand upon concepts related to research a little. The topics we're going to discuss this week aren't just related to research, however. These topics all connect to how we create our own point of view and how we view the world around us. To get us started, we are going to discuss beliefs, assumptions, and values. Before we start connecting these to the social sciences and the world around us, let's discuss the definitions we'll be using for each of these. A belief is a conviction that people are certain is true. It may be a belief in ourselves or a belief in a higher power. This is all about what we personally know to be true. We get our beliefs from our families, our cultures, our education, and especially our experiences in the world around us. We carry these beliefs with us, and our brain uses these as shortcuts. These beliefs we carry help us create certain assumptions about the world around us. Assumptions are ideas that people accept as true without proof. Our assumptions may be right or wrong. When I taught English classes, I had a lot of students who walked into class the first day and shared their assumption that English classes are horrible, and I'm going to fail this class. It was all based upon things like having struggled with English classes in high school or a dislike of things like diagramming sentences or writing. They came into the class assuming that they were going to fail and hate this English class too. Our values can also help shape our beliefs and assumptions. Our values are principles or standards that a culture or that we consider important. We tend to live by these values. We behave in ways that show forth these values as opposed to ways that would go against these values. Chances are you value education. Otherwise, you'd be unlikely to be enrolled in college. It can be important to have an understanding of what your values, beliefs, and assumptions are, as these will influence our ways of thinking and behavior. Let's go back to that assumption that a class is going to be horrible or that one will fail a class. Those assumptions can become a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. One could miss out on a terrific course, cause undue stress, or even fail a class, simply because of an assumption and an unwillingness to give a course a chance. Our beliefs, assumptions, and values all work together to create our unique perspective on the world around us. These can also cause us to create biases. A bias is how a person views something, either positively or negatively, that influences how that person perceives the world. Our biases, just like our values, assumptions, and beliefs, are shaped by our families, our religions, and by those around us. When we are aware of our biases, we call those explicit biases. Conversely, implicit biases are biases that we hold at a subconscious level. We may be completely unaware of our implicit biases. Your course overview has some great examples of bias for you to take a look at as you do your reading this week. It's important to know that not all biases are negative. Our biases help us to navigate the world around us. It's important, though, that we acknowledge our negative biases. When we question or challenge our negative biases, we can open ourselves up to new experiences and better relationships. You're going to read about the implicit attitude test in the module overview. If you're interested in learning more about biases you may have, you can go and take a short test and learn more about your own biases. Just like everyone else, social scientists have their own biases. These biases can impact how they study human behavior. That brings us to objective and subjective observations. When we maintain objectivity, we set aside our own personal opinions, biases, and emotions. In research, this can help enhance credibility and can make it so that the research can be repeated. Objective observations use our 5 senses and will be pretty much the same across multiple observers. They usually start with phrases like, I saw, I heard, I counted, I tasted, I smelled. Notice that each of these involves our 5 senses and can be replicated. Subjective observations, on the other hand, are based off our own beliefs, assumptions, or values. They usually start with phrases like, I feel, I think, I like, or I believe. Using this example here with the oranges, one person is making a factual statement that these are oranges. The objective observation is that it is an orange. The subjective observation is that the person likes oranges. Your module overview has some examples based on an advertisement. No matter how hard people strive to make objective observations, it may not always be possible. Do you remember the dress? Or Yanni Laurel? Well, we're going to revisit those in the module overview. I also want to take a second to talk about those with sensory processing disorder. There are people who have issues with their nervous system interrupting stimuli. For example, a noise that those who are neurotypical may be able to ignore or may not feel is too loud may be debilitatingly loud to someone with SPD. Depending on the person, any or all 5 of the senses can be impacted so that their observations would differ from those who are observing the same thing. To give a real-life example I've experienced with my son, I often buy potato bread. For those of you who may not know, potato bread is essentially the same as regular bread, but it has mashed potatoes in the dough. The taste of potatoes isn't overly noticeable. It's not like eating mashed potatoes, but the taste is slightly different than a typical bread. My son, however, says it tastes exactly the same as a lemon. He tastes no difference between a lemon and a slice of potato bread. This would be an example of where SPD could cause observations to be different. As we are doing a little more examination of our advertisements, it's important for us to discuss surface messages versus underlying messages seen in advertisements. We all know that their overall message, that surface message, is buy this product or use this service. There are often messages that are further beneath the surface, however. These could promote a stereotype. Perhaps they're showing support for a social movement. To really take a deeper look at advertising, we need to take a look at what other messages are hidden within advertising. Your module overview has an example for you. You will be using this skill in your advertisements this week. Speaking of your assignments, here's what's due in week 2. Your first assignment is due on Thursday and is your initial post to the 2-1 discussion board. You will have 2 response posts due by 11:59 p.m. on Sunday night. And your Module 2 activity is also due by 11:59 p.m. on Sunday. This week begins the 11:59 p.m. in your time zone deadline for assignments. Don't forget, if you have any questions, I'm here to help. You can email me at r.enco@snhu.edu, or you can post your question in the General Questions discussion board. Have a terrific week, everyone, and I'm here if you need me for anything.